Welcome to Sit Down with the Superintendent, presented by GCHS TV. Join us as we welcome Greenup County Superintendent Tracy Moracey to our roundtable discussion hosted by GCHS students.
Hey Musketeers, I hope everyone is doing well and keeping their spirits up. Here's a quick message from our staff.
Fight, fight on down the field.
And the green, black, and gold.
We'll fight with all our might.
We're gonna win this game tonight.
Rah, rah, rah.
Fight on to victory.
We'll cheer you as you go.
Our honor defend.
We'll fight till the end for the Musketeers.
G-R-E-E-N-U-P.
G-R-E-E-N-U-P.
Greenup County, let's fight!
And good afternoon. Welcome into another edition of Sit Down with the Superintendent. I'm James Collier, joined with Superintendent Tracy Moracey, who's on the other side of the room, by the way.
Yes,
I wanted to point that out.
We are social distancing.
We are practicing social distancing. She's in the news center. I'm in the weather center, so we are not sitting next to each other. So I put together the two things here, so we're definitely separated. But
he's going to make me actually work some equipment over here.
Yeah,
I'm not for sure.
We'll see how this works out. Hopefully, we do better than what we had last time. We had a terrible run through last time at the beginning, but I think everything's working okay.
Yeah.
First off, how are you? Before we get going, a big shout out there to the GC Student Council with the video they made. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, they did. They did a great job, and I will give a shout out to Sophia Shoemaker. She had requested me to do my part like 2 weeks ago, and I thought she was kidding. So I didn't do it at first, and then I heard back from her. She was like, no, really, I want you to sing. So I made my children do it with me, in case you're wondering. So my son Max and Maria are in there that you always hear me talk about. So, but a great initiative, and I'll be silly anytime I need to be, just for kids.
Absolutely. There you see the email address on your screen, gcps.faq@greenup.kyschools.us. That is the email address that comes directly to us. So if you have any questions for the show, whether it be during the show or anytime, send that to us. That's where we will be able to get responses back to you. We have a couple there. We also have the live chat feature available today on YouTube, as we are streaming live on YouTube. So if you have any questions, you can drop them in there, and we'll get to that. Unfortunately, we didn't get to be together last week. Thoughts and prayers to your husband, loss of a family member there, for not being able to be with us last week.
Right.
But again, a lot has been going on as we move forward and we get ready to move in towards spring break. Catch us up to date of kind of where we are as a county, of where we have before we get to finally spring break, what everybody's been waiting for.
Okay, so I'm seeing on Facebook that everyone's very excited that there are only 2 more days until spring break. So parents, you're getting a break next week. We have asked, I've employed my teachers, please don't go into the school to get any paper, don't email, don't respond. So if they message you or you send them a message and they don't respond, I have asked them not to. They are ready. I think all of us are ready for a little bit of a break. I'm really proud of what they've done as far as, they've extended that school day beyond. There are teachers answering things at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, because that's when parents are home to help with homework. So just a real shout out to them. We do have a tentative plan to be able to return. We are waiting from the governor to be able to tell us when we can do that or if we can do that. I'll be honest, there is an if. As of right now, if you are making plans for your own personal reasons, our last official day of school on the school calendar is May 22nd. Now, I can't tell you that we will be in NTI all the way to May 22nd. Scientists are working feverishly, and I don't mean a pun in that. They are working hard just to try to find some solutions to this, and we have a lot of smart people out there experimenting and trying to find out what combination of drugs might put this to a quicker end. So I'm very hopeful. I believe in our people and the possibilities out there. So I'm hopeful that we could get back. That's my job, is to be positive and hope. So that's what I will do. If for some reason we do get back, then our graduation will actually be on the evening of May 22nd. Again, we are abiding whatever the governor and KDE, Kentucky Department of Education, tell us. At this point, they are hinting that they want us to at least remain closed until May 1st. That's where they are right now.
And I know that was something that we saw from Ohio. We actually had one of our questions that came in. What does Greenup County plan to do, if anything, at this point? Because where Ohio has already made the mandate, they are staying closed until May 1st.
They are staying closed, and we were told there's a good chance they really wanted to look at offering at least 6 weeks of NTI instruction. So if you do the math, that does put us to May 1st. So we're just watching and waiting. I know every Friday, pretty much, there is a conference call that I'm on with the governor, and he tells us exactly what his hopes are that we will do, and I am not going to go against the governor. So we're going to do what he is asking of us, including we're social distancing today. So we really appreciate his leadership. He's done a nice job for the schools.
And it's the one thing that I've watched several of his broadcasts. One of the things I've been so kind of taken back by, his calm and poise that he offers. He makes you really feel at ease, and he reminds us that probably tougher times are ahead. And the biggest thing is that he reminds us of, while it's beautiful outside, the weather's starting to turn, we have to continue to monitor our own actions, control our own social distancing, policing, because if we don't, we can take everything that we've put together and destroy it in a matter of minutes.
Absolutely. We are our own worst enemy, literally, right now. As a community, Greenup County, I'm proud of you guys because we've done pretty well on having a lot of cases reported. I did hear of one this morning, actually. There has been one confirmed this morning, not any relation to our school system at this time, just in the county itself. So I don't know where that person lives. They could live in Flatwoods, they could live anywhere, because Greenup County encompasses such a long stretch along 23 and out to Carter County. But with that said, we can't help but discourage anyone who wants to play on our basketball courts, things like that. We've had to lock those down. We apologize. But we've roped them off and shut down our playgrounds. I know that was a great outlet for kids, but we're going to need you guys to stay home and stay safe.
And that's something that I know Governor Beshear spoke about this earlier in the week. I'm an avid fisherman, and again, I'm not going to lie, I've been practicing my social distancing with fish. And over the weekend at Del Hollow Lake, there was a bass tournament that was held, and the issue that you run into with Del Hollow Lake is 3/4 of the lake sits in Tennessee. The other quarter sits in Kentucky. And it's very easy to intertwine and intermingle those two states together. And that's something that we're trying to keep away from right now. Do not cross state lines unless you have to. The issue is that this large tournament, you had all of these anglers that were conjured together in this parking lot as they were going through their weigh-in. And they were all kind of just intermingling, talking about the day and this and that. And the social distancing was gone. So something that Governor Beshear has now mentioned, he's pointed out that specifically. They've assigned 2 park rangers additional to the course itself, or I'm sorry, the lake. He's put game wardens in place on the lake. He's also talked about golf courses. If you go out to a golf course, you can stay in a foursome and maintain social distancing for some aspect. But the point he brought up was, if you go to the practice green and there's 24 of you standing around talking, waiting for your foursome to go off, you've created another problem because now you've created all the barriers for the social distancing to go away. So thinking of things, if you go out for a bike ride, it needs to be you and your family only, not friends. Do not go out with running with friends. And like you said, the basketball courts, there is not a basketball court anywhere in the area that is open for the public use. And if they cannot have it kind of chained off or where they can lock it, I saw one picture from Portsmouth. They've actually taken boards and put across it in an X like this and bolted them together so you can't shoot. They're doing everything they possibly can to force us to maintain good social distancing efforts, and it takes us as a whole group to make this work.
I agree, and that's kind of where we started with even the delivery of food. That's one of the reasons why we did not do that. we were trying to work on keeping as many people home and not on the front lines as possible. So, that is something really close to our minds all the time. One of the things to just remember, we are still having our food service 3 days a week. And whenever you pull up, the new request we have is if you would please pop your trunk or your back area, and that way we can, easily put things in the back of your car without, touching or hand touching with another person or face-to-face contact. So I thought that was a really great idea. So I'm glad to see that we're looking creatively into how we can continue food service going to our families, because there are families who truly depend on this. And anyone who has kids home now, and they might be realizing their cupboards are emptying a lot quicker than normal. So just don't be ashamed to take on that free service. I know a lot of people who have said, hey, the food's great, I'm taking my kid down there every day. And I said, absolutely do that. And honestly, we get reimbursed for that. So you are not putting a strain on us at all. We want to do this for you. So feel free, that's part of what your tax dollars do, is to provide this. So come get the meal. Not a problem. And we are going to continue service next week.
And that's good because, we understand that sometimes that food that is provided, that is one of the main sources of food intake that our students get, and we want to continue to get that. So a very important thing there to understand, we will have that still open throughout the spring break period that begins next week. Let's talk about NTI work, and we've got kind of a double-edged sword here. We have some kids that are working with technology, some that are working with packets, and I think that the ones that are working through the technology, they work more toward a deadline that the teachers are working with. The ones with the packets are the ones I think we're having a lot of questions with. They're saying, I've finished with my work, now what?
Right, and honestly, I've even had a parent send that message in, what else can my kid do? Here's something to think about. There are tons of life skills out there that we need our students to know, and we have been so focused on academics in the culture of education that sometimes it is very difficult to get those extra just life skills in. How to balance a checkbook, how to log into online checking, how to do, if you're sitting down doing your taxes, sit your kid down with you. I also encourage you to do projects, and I've encouraged teachers to make project assignments. This is a time where we want everyone to come together. As a matter of fact, our hashtag, we changed it from Musketeer Mindset. We went with Together GC. And we also go with exactly what the Governor Beshear has asked, is Together Kentucky. So if you see that there is something you can be doing to help your community, that is just as important as some type of homework, workbook, essay assignment. Write cards and letters to people, advocate for people online, email your senators and discuss what's going on with the budgets. There are lots of things that students could be doing, especially our older students, to get out there and make a difference. I saw that the elementaries, a lot of them are doing the bear hunts, and put a sign in your window and let the kids enjoy that. I think they're getting ready to change that up and make it an Easter egg hunt. So there's an FYI on that. They're going to make that an Easter egg hunt so you can put an Easter egg in your window. So, which, that makes sense, right?
No, of course it does. And it was funny, my son was telling me about something earlier in the week he saw on social media. There was an elderly couple that had a window on the front of their house, and they sat a rocking chair on their sidewalk and put a note on it that said, in front of the rocking chair, said, have a sit down, we'll open the window and have a conversation. So a great way for someone to go out and have a conversation with an elderly couple that, again, we want to be very cautious as we go around our elderly folks to where they are ones that I think are most susceptible to catching the virus that it can easily spread to. And that was a great way that we can still give them interaction, which I think is very important for them to have, and do it at a very safe distance. So I thought that was a kind of a neat idea as well.
You know, one of the other people that we're worried about are our youth that are old enough to understand what's going on. So our student council has actually began an initiative. They're doing it through Remind 101. And so they invite you to join it, and each day they are putting out messages of positive statements, positive ideas, things that you could be doing for fun. They took on this initiative all by themselves. I cannot take credit for it. They just asked me if I would advertise for them. So here is my cheap advertisement. If you text 81010, you join the group, and your message is #TogetherGC.
And I've got the hashtag up there on the top of the screen now that we've added in as well.
And I do believe it might be all lowercase for this actual Remind. So and I'll put this out on my page as well. And they have tweeted it out. We really want students to join this, just because you'll get graphics and ideas and things that you can do for the day, just to kind of keep your mind going in a positive direction. Because if you're home and your parents are gone and they're at work, or you're home and you are tired of arguing with your brother or sister, sometimes you need a little up, just to remind you that things are going to be okay and that this will have a positive end. I'm a true believer that things happen for a reason, and I really I hate what we're going through, but we are starting to learn to come together as a family and in my own home, and not necessarily be so busy with a calendar schedule.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have gotten our days and nights mixed up. It's what day is it? I know my wife said the other day, she said it's Tuesday. I said, no, it's Monday. So I think we've lost kind of track of the days of the week. And it's something, though, that you're having to learn a new form of life, because the on-the-go that we're so accustomed to in today's society, this feels more like what it was when I was a child back in the 80s, to where you have family time, you have that allotted time to where you slow down and kind of enjoy things around you, and it's not, what is my next event so I can grab my calendar and get something else scheduled in there in a 15-minute period.
I will agree, and I'll tell you, honestly, I liked the 80s. I'm an 80s child as well.
I like the 80s TV shows much better, so I'm with you there.
But what I will say is my kids are outside. They are outside and they're playing, but we have tons of work. And that's one of the things that I'm also hearing. I'm hearing the opposite respect of my kid has too much work. We are asking too much of kids. They have hours and hours at their kitchen table doing work, and then they're not getting outside. So we're working on a balance with that, and I have spoken to the schools, because we've never had this type of situation before. It is brand new to us. Greenup County did not do NTI days, and I've expressed that several times on this show, that it does create a hardship for families when you do NTI days, and that's one of the reasons that we had not chosen to do it. However, this is a necessity for us, and we are learning on the fly. I like to give the phrase building the airplane while we fly it.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have been in that situation there. Yeah. We've seen that a lot of times. Speaking of projects, I've got to kick some feedback out to my kids. I came up with an idea for them to do something this week. This is with my pre-cal kids. We were kind of at the end of a chapter. I didn't want to start a new chapter going into spring break. So I assigned them a family vacation assignment to where they have to start in the state of Kentucky. I gave them 5 landmarks they have to visit. Their final destination is Seattle, Washington. But they have to kind of chart their way all the way from their home in Greenup all the way to Seattle. And if they cross through a state that is not one of these 5 landmarks, they have to visit a specific landmark in that state.
Oh, okay.
They can only drive for 12 hours a day. And they had to make a decision whether they were going to travel in a motorhome and how they were going to do their food, or were they going to use a minivan, and they have to figure out how much money they're going to spend on gas, how much they're going to spend on food, how much they're going to spend on hotels. And then, so they're doing this together, and they're making videos of it, collaborating back and forth. So this is kind of something that they're working on going into spring break. And some of the questions that they come up with, I had one student text me last night and said, how long do we have to rest? and did it in air quotes. I was like, 8 hours is suffice. You could go back after that. So
That's funny.
But it's one of the things I know. Speaking on my side as a teacher, you hear those kids some that are not having the best of luck with the remote learning type of thing. So it's, again, we want to do as much as we possibly can. But I know I spoke with my department this week, and I told them, I said, take the curriculum window and throw it out the window.
Yeah.
At this point, that is no longer relevant. Think about what we can make our kids do that is going to be most beneficial for them next year.
Yes, and
that's what we are.
That's exactly what I sent out yesterday. I'm sure you probably got the email that I sent out yesterday to all staff, and I just said, focus on what you need to have your students know before this year is over with. If they walk out the door, what do you want them to know? And, another thing to think about, parents and teachers and kids, what do you want to remember about this time? Do you want to remember stacks of worksheets? Or do you want to remember an imaginary trip across the country? So, and we've had some parents that have actually said they don't want want the technology, they want packets. I will tell you, I've told the principals, and I'll go on record saying it, I would like to eventually stop the packets and do all technology. This is why. Those packets carry germs. So when we're giving you packets and you're getting packets back into us, we are not really social distancing. So that in itself makes me a little nervous for my staff, to be honest with you. So the packets would be great and ideal if we were not in this situation where we're trying to avoid germs. But because we are trying to avoid germs, it's really best if you will opt to do the technology. Well,
and the other thing too is that if we do a packet, I know this is something that they're doing at the high school, I'm certain that they're doing this throughout every other school in the district. But when it comes back in, it goes into immediate 14-day quarantine.
Yes.
So the teachers do not get any of that. So if your student is doing the packets and you're not seeing any updates on Infinite Campus, that's because we do not have it yet. It cannot be released to the teachers until it's been in that 14-day quarantine, so we make certain that anything that's there is gone.
Yes, and that was my order of me, because I honestly did not want our teachers taking on unnecessary health risks.
Drop-off packets or picking up after school, some have that they can't get to school. What's their options they have for that?
Okay, so some options are you can take a picture of your work and you can email it to your teacher or post it in Google Classroom. Or you can call and set up a time with the front office. It's open 9 to 1 every day, and at each school. Give them a call and they will have it ready for you to walk outside and hand it to you. Again, if you need a Chromebook because you have 5 kids in your house and they're all trying to work off their phones, we will loan Chromebooks. We have a form for you to sign. You come through the pickup drop-off line just like you do for food or anything else, and let them know that, hey, I'm here to pick up a Chromebook. I actually watched it happen as I was coming into the studio to do this show today. So there's a form. You will be responsible for it, to take care of it. And then whenever we get back to school, we do need it returned because we'll need to use it in the classroom. We don't have that kind of funding to just give out Chromebooks, but we will definitely loan them to put things at ease at your home.
And another thing too, if your student needs a calculator, one thing that I want to throw out there is we have calculators that we can loan out. We could check those out as well. There is a website that we use at the high school. We use this fairly commonly, Desmos.com.
Right.
It is totally free. It has a typical 4-function calculator, has a scientific calculator, and has graphic calculator. It is very user-friendly. You can also download the app to their phone. It's through the Google Play Store or the App Store through iTunes. And essentially the same thing that you see on the screen you get on your phone. And that's one of the things I love about Desmos is the fact of the students aren't using like a watered down version when they're using it on their phone. They're using the same thing they see on their screen. So, and again, it doesn't matter whether this is a student in middle school, high school, elementary school, wherever. This is a great tool for parents to have at home when you don't have that calculator that student needs. This right here gives them that option.
This could save you a lot of money in general, even whenever your child does go into higher ed math. This is something that can save you. And I will also tell you, my former job was over instruction. This is the exact calculator and instruction that we used for assessments, for state assessments. So whenever kids take their state assessment every year, they will use Desmos because they are going to all online assessments. So, I mean, I'm very proud of Greenup County. We are way ahead of the ball game in several areas, especially with technology.
And it's something too is that when we know that those high stakes testing are going that direction, that's something where we kind of as a math department we really made the initiative. We're one on one with our students as far as Chromebooks in the math department, so everybody has that option. And when the students really get the gist of it, you see so many students, they don't even touch that calculator that they've always, they cling to it as they wanted it before. Now they go straight to Desmos.
Yeah, and if you have it on your phone, you take your phone everywhere. But you don't necessarily take a giant graphing calculator with you. So, I used to always hear from my mother, you won't always have a calculator, so you better learn this. Well, Mom, I'm sorry. I always have a calculator with me now. So.
Well, we get ready to head into spring break, and I know one of the things that we just put out the initiative, stay out of the buildings. They're going to disinfect, heavy disinfecting on all the buildings, and they want everybody to stay away. Most important, this is a time where I know for, as well as the parents and the students, this is a time that the teachers really need to unplug as well.
Yes, I'm encouraging them to not do Google Meets. I'm encouraging them that Friday, help all the kids you need to on Friday, and then Saturday morning get up and be done. And I even said, don't make a lesson plan, don't take phone calls, don't call people, just take a moment for you, because the mental angst that they are dealing with is actually more than anybody probably understands, because they've always had this pressure to get certain curriculum in and to move the kids along achievement-wise. Let no kid fall behind. So if they don't hear from a student, they are anxious and worried about them, because not all of our kids go home to an equal opportunity. So they are very concerned and stressed. And at the same time, many of them are young and they are raising their own children, doing homework packets and online work at the same time as their kids. I got a message from my husband last night. He is a teacher at another school district.
We won't say what school district.
Yes, but they're cats. But anyway, he is a teacher at another school district, and I'll just say he teaches science, biology, forensics, anatomy, college anatomy at Blazer High School. And so he's trying to work with my elementary age 4th grader, and he messaged me and said, teachers deserve a raise if we do not start looking at schools and giving school systems better pay. It's a travesty, because he's never dealt with a 4th grader. He's always taught high school.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with a 4th grader that is stressed out about a map and a boundary and, trying to pronounce Paducah, which he thought said pudding cake. But anyway, that's a whole different story.
That's a good story.
Pudding
cake, I like that.
I think he was, and he's a great reader, he's an excellent reader. I think he was just exhausted at that point.
Funny.
And so, I've got him on Messenger, sending me messages and crazy faces because they're stressed.
Speaking of 4th grade, I have a horror story. When I started my substitute teaching, I went into a 4th grade classroom, and I had been either high school or upper middle school is the only levels I'd gone into. And when I came home, I felt like Arnold Schwarzenegger off a kindergarten cop.
Yes. Did you have a tumor?
Yeah, I told my wife, I said, if this is what teaching is, I'm going to work somewhere else. I cannot do with it. Now, she's the same way when it comes to high school. She can't deal with the older kids. She likes the littles. But, yeah, it's across the board. It's a whole different element. So, Matt, I feel your pain there, my friend. I'm with you. Pudding cake, I would just bang my head against the wall.
Yeah, but it's okay. They got through it and they found those boundaries. And that's something I did hear Bashir say the other day that I don't want to forget to say this. Remember, boundary lines are imaginary. We don't really see those in the real world. So the whole concept of not understanding social distancing and not understanding going across state lines and things like that, it's very easy to forget that that's his request, because we're used to running over to Ohio to pick up groceries and different things. So just be cognizant as much as you can for your family, because they need you. So stay safe.
Last thing, and I will wrap it up here unless you have anything else. I think yesterday was a kind of a reality check for a lot of people when the president announced that right now we've seen just under 3,500 deaths of this, and they're projecting somewhere between 100,000 to 240,000 people that is going to die from this virus. And I think if that doesn't catch you in the gut, that I don't know what will. You're talking about a minimum of 96,000 people dying. We're talking about more people than died in World War II.
Correct. And not on my watch is how I feel about it. I don't want it happening here with our people. Greenup County has done an excellent job, I think. We are one of the last to actually have. I know it's always been here. However, the testing is now available, and we're seeing one case today of a 27-year-old. So we're not invincible. It could happen to all of us. And I do believe the first case in Kentucky was a 37-year-old. And they ended up in serious condition. And I just don't want it happening on my watch with these schools. So let's keep our kids safe. Think about when you're getting ready to go out and do something or that might not be best advised, remember that your kid needs you. And we also have a lot of grandparents who are raising kids. And, my prayers go out to you because you have already raised children and now you're raising another line of children, and I know you're tired and we want you safe. So if we can be of any service to you, Greenup County is here. As long as it keeps our people safe as well, we'll do what we can for you.
And it's one of the things that be very cognitive too as you start to visit relatives, because again, sometimes the younger kids, they're carriers of this. They never show any signs of symptoms, and you don't want to take that in on the elderly. So again, a lot of telephone calls, video calls is kind of where we are in this day and age. But teach your kid how to write a letter.
This is a perfect time to have them keep a journal. That's another thing I wanted to mention to this parent that asked. A journal in this time, and it doesn't have to be a Dear Diary journal handwritten. It can be on a computer if that's how they work best. But I strongly encourage a journal because this is a historical time. It's hard when you're living it to realize that it is history, but we've never had entire school systems shut down across the nation, stay-in-place orders. And these are things other countries deal with regularly due to war, due to outbreaks, but this is new to the United States. And it is a moment in history, and we want to be known for doing the right things. So I encourage you to do the right things, and I encourage you to document what's going on in your lives, because kids, I know it's hard to believe, but you'll have grandchildren one day that'll ask you if you were ever stuck at home during the coronavirus. So just know that this is your chance to make a positive mark on history.
One thing I did forget to touch base on, yesterday Julian Tackett, the commissioner of the KHSA, put another directive out. All spring sports are suspended indefinitely, and that supersedes now the dead period that was running up through the middle of April. We've actually even seen reports out of Ohio. They're talking about possible suspensions of fall sports. And you start talking about fall sports, that's where you start getting into your revenue sports. You're talking about football. Everybody loves football, and it's something that we have to think about. If we want life to go back to where it was prior to this, we have to start making measures now, or things are going to get worse down the road.
Do it now. It's kind of things I used to tell my kids about chores. Do it now so that you don't have to do it for even longer later. Okay, so it's not going to go away until we actually do what we need to do. So.
Enjoy your spring break.
You too, and remember what I said. Nobody comes to work on spring break. We are going to have the building shut down, and one of the things that's going to be going on during spring break, just so parents know, we have some really, really deep cleaning planned over spring break, and we do not want our custodians to come in and have a building full of people during that time. And they're going to use some pretty strong chemicals. So we want to make sure that our buildings are clear. So in our buildings for the next week, the only people there will be the cooks in the kitchen will have limited amount of people there, just delivering food and making food and preparing food. Remember on that to pop your trunk so that they don't have to do a face-to-face contact, because they're important to us as well. And then we will have custodian, maybe 1 or 2 staggered in, scheduled, so that they're not working together, and get our buildings really scrubbed down top to bottom.
That'll do it for this edition. We'll be back with you in 2 weeks. Enjoy spring break. For Superintendent Tracy Maurice, I'm James Collier. Have a great afternoon. Stay safe, everyone.